Well, have a happy Wednesday evening, folks, or at least I hope you had a happy Wednesday evening watching AEW and NXT wherever you are right now in the world. And I hope you're going to cap off this wonderful Wednesday evening enjoying some wrestling discussion with us here at Fightful, FightfulWrestling.com, Fightful.com, YouTube.com/Fightful. I'm Mr. Warren Hayes, and we are going to be talking about AEW Dynamite and NXT right here tonight. It's the Wednesday Night Wars podcast. That's why we do it. We're going to run down everything that happened, and it's going to be a good time. Just like everything that happens on Fightful is a good time. You get all your news, all your scoops, everything is there. And if you want a little extra, if you want a little more to that, if you can't get enough of all that sweet, sweet Fightful content, and you want to show a little support at the same time, you head on over to FightfulSelect.com. You subscribe to the service, and then you get a whole bunch of extra content. You get extra podcasts over there, like Steven Jensen covering everything non-WWE every weekend on the Weekender podcast. You have Sean, who does Q&A sessions like all the time now. It's like essentially he's Mr. Q&A these days, but he also has backstage reports there as well. Get extra content from the List in Your Boy podcast, and you get in my look. I mean, I'm just throwing this out there, and it's not because I really like Alex Pawlowski that I'm going to say this, but to me, the main event, Fightful Select, is unquestionably Sour Graps, where our boy Alex Pawlowski reviews every week, twice a week, Raw and SmackDown, and he does it in a very sour / animated way. Alex, but Alex is always in a good mood on Wednesdays. Alex, how you doing?
Listen, it's Wednesday. I'm doing fantastic. I'm so much better than you know. I listen. I have both of my eyes, which is more than I can say for a certain luchador legend. And I just want to say big ups. And we're thinking about you, Ray Ray. Hope you're doing all right in that local medical facility. Mm-hmm. Was really happy to hear that your optic nerve wasn't severed in that horrible act that Seth Rollins purported upon you, where he drove your eye into the corner of a steel steps and removing the eyeball from the socket, because that's how physics works.
Exactly. And it's crazy how it didn't come out the first time he did it. It's just wild. Man, I'm telling you, nature is full of surprises. It really, really is. Just like nature brought Louis Dangoor back to us this week. He was swept away by strong winds and thankfully found his way back home to us this week. Louis, how are you doing?
I'm very good. Firstly, thank you, Carlos, for filling in for me last week, but I have returned. So I'm expecting double super chats from everyone and the show to run considerably more smoothly than it would have done last week in my absence.
Hey, you know what? I started and my microphone was working this week, so it's already a win in my book. As Louis mentioned, if you want to show a little support here this evening, you can drop us a super chat. Drop us a super chat. There we go. And I will stumble my way through them throughout the evening. Want to start off by reading off a super chat from our friend Anakin. Thank you very much. Who says, thank you everyone who donated to the Wild Boy GoFundMe. We're over $3,000 so far. You all rock. Yeah, our boy Wild Boy, who is a good friend of the show, a good friend of Fightful, had a very, very tragic loss occur to him over the past few days. Anakin set up a GoFundMe to help with funeral expenses for his mother. If you want to help out, it's still possible. Go to Sean's Twitter, Sean Ross Sapp's Twitter, and I think it's still his pinned tweet. In his pinned tweet is the link to Wild Boy's GoFundMe. So if you do want to pitch in and help out a good guy, good friend of the show, that would be fantastic. Zach Barber left us a super chat. Says AEW won this night in a rout. He says, well, let's get right to it then. In one word, Louis, who won tonight, AEW or NXT?
AEW.
Alexander.
Very, very quick.
Alex, what about you?
AEW.
Oh, there you go. I think, and I think that was the correct answer for the night. By the way, folks, if you do leave a super chat and I don't read it straight off, it's probably because I'm saving it for the segment a little later on. So don't worry if I don't read it straight off the bat. I will eventually get to it. I promise. And we started off the evening on AEW Dynamite tonight with the TNT Open Challenge. We had Cody squaring off against the surprise participant tonight, who turned out to be, as a lot of people were speculating online, Eddie Kingston. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with Eddie Kingston, he's been around since 2002. He's wrestled in PWG, Ring of Honor, TNA Impact. He's had tryouts for WWE. He most recently was involved in NWA. I guess with the status of the NWA being pretty much up in the air these days, a guy has to find some work. And he's a guy who's, he mentioned in his promo tonight, he's a guy whose formative years were indeed very, very difficult, and they're well documented. He's one of the best talkers out there, and I was really happy that he got a shot here tonight. And that promo that he cut tonight, my goodness, Louis, he calls Cody out saying, "You grew up around wrestling legends while I grew up around junkies and alcoholics." He says every person that Cody has previously faced was a child, and he is a grown man, and he promises to put Cody in the ground. Kingston says Tony Khan paid him to show up and take the title from Cody. Kingston says Khan would also allow a no DQ match if Cody accepts. Cody does. I love Eddie Kingston. I thought he was misused, underused in NWA. He was clearly one of the best talkers. This was fantastic and gave me all the right feels.
Yeah, I thought this was exceptional, actually. I think it was the best open challenge by far in terms of what it achieved, and it felt the most different for me. It felt like really someone who came at sort of an independent name that came in to prove a point and was sort of the opposite of what Cody is. So it sort of, this match felt gritty, it felt raw, it felt real, it felt like a trial, I guess. So I really, really, really loved this match and loved the promo that came before it and the positioning of it on the card. I thought this was exceptional, and this is what the Open Challenge should be. So it's got a big thumbs up from me.
This was a brawl. This is what it was. It was a fight, and I liked it. Kingston went really hard on Cody with some chops. Cody takes off the weight belt, but it's Kingston who takes full advantage of it because he whipped the boy. Something fierce. They even peel off the padding off the floor, but it's Cody that backdrops Kingston onto the cement. We get a stretch plum from Kingston, which is something I don't get to say all the time. Stretch plum. Followed by a Dragon Sleeper as well. But the main attraction here is the thumbtacks that Kingston had tucked away under the ring. He powerbombs Cody onto them. And I love the slap fest as Cody was trying to go for the figure four. Kingston taps to the figure four. And this was a really good match, Louis. And I'll be honest. And maybe it's because I'm very partial to Eddie Kingston. But seeing him sit on the ramp and just be completely devastated at losing, knowing what kind of hardships he's been through and is still going through, it really broke my heart. Very effective segment as far as wrestling goes.
Yeah, I think commentary did a very good job as well. They mentioned a nice fact about him having to sell his boots, I think, to pay his mortgage. It really made you realize how much Kingston obviously needed to win this match and how much was riding on it, which gave it even more stakes than being a sort of your average title match. So I really like this. And as you say, the whole image of him being dejected on the ramp afterwards, again, just proved how much this match meant to him and how much was on the line. So this was perfect. And I hope we see more stuff like this as we progress with the TNT Championship Open Challenges.
Hey, you know what? Even Roger Acevedo, who left us a super chat, by the way, thank you very much, says, please give me more Eddie Kingston. I mean, Alex, I don't know how familiar you are with Kingston's career, but this is a guy that's always been on the sideline of a big break, of being one of in the top promotions. I mean, he was in TNA Impact, which is non-negligible. It's not as if he was completely invisible all these years, but he's so close. He's so close to the big break, and if there's anything here tonight, he just entered another level of mainstream consciousness. Wouldn't you agree?
He's one of my favorite talkers ever, like in the business. There's a potential hypothetical future feud between him and Jon Moxley where the promo battles are just pay-per-view by themselves. I love his whole aura of just this like absolute gutter hitman who just comes out of like an alley and just murders you with a hammer. Like that, this guy is just so, he feels real and earthy and just, it feels great. And I wish he hadn't tapped out in this match. Yeah. The tap out didn't work for me. I feel like he was doing, like, choosing to give up in a match where everything you have is on the line. His whole promo after the thing that you can watch on Twitter is the social exclusive, where he's talking about, I got nothing else. I chose to have nothing else. Like that mm-hmm. As a guy who gave up everything to try and become an actor 15 years ago, I remember that feeling of choosing to have no other options but to try and try and try and try, and then you eventually you fail. Like all that stuff happens. So that feeling of I got to do this. I have no option but to do this, but to succeed. I cannot fail. Tapping out is the acquiescence, and I don't think that's great. He should have been like, you can't crossroads him into the thumbtacks. Like, you know, that's I mean that's a brutal way to go, but that would reason why he would be able to kick out at the 3.
Yeah, it would have been fitting. Outcast Kid left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, 21 years old, first time seeing Kingston. I was 100% invested. I knew he would lose, but damn, why couldn't he win the title, or will he come back? Well, I mean, I guess keep an eye on what's going on with AEW. Of course, they're in a situation where they can't hire everyone either that goes through their doors, especially in the context. But here's hoping that this creates some fantastic opportunities for Kingston. I mean, if you want a guy who just has everything, that just leaves everything out there and is always talking as if his heart is on his sleeve, I love the guy. Absolutely love him. Next, we had Mox cutting a promo, applauding Taz for throwing in the towel last week, keeping him from destroying Brian Cage's arm, which led us into MJF coming to the ring against Griff Garrison, a name that you did not know until tonight, Louis. But
I did.
Oh, sure, okay. Tell us about Griff Garrison, Mr. I knew about him, Mr. Hipster guy. Go ahead.
He does the dark.
What?
He wrestles on dark.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you know what I meant. My goodness. And MJF.
Do you not watch Dark religiously?
Yeah, I watch Dark on occasion. Sometimes I forget the names of the trainee talent who are there.
You forgot the name.
I forgot the name. But hey,
Garrison.
Kudos to MJF. I will never forget it. I will never forget it. Moving on tonight. I never will. He cuts a promo on Garrison, gets him to say his name, and MJF mocks him because he says it in the most generic wrestling promo way ever. Mocks him, and he says, MJF says he couldn't graduate finger painting class. Asks him how it feels to be in the ring with someone who's undefeated, and Griff Garrison calls him out, saying that, well, you lost a tag team last week, and MJF attacks him. They get into the match, beats him up. During the match, grabs the microphone again and says that he's never been pinned or submitted, and therefore has never been defeated. And he wants him to get to say that he's undefeated. And he tortures Garrison until Garrison acquiesces. MJF gets the win. I mean, this it had been a while since we haven't seen MJF in complete heel form. This was absolutely fine.
Yeah, it was great. And I think that the match made me think that perhaps AEW does have plans for Griff Garrison, perhaps going forward, or see him as someone who could be a potential player in the next couple of years. For me, it was quite funny sort of seeing the obvious slight similarities, at least visually, between Jungle Boy and Griff Garrison, and obviously knowing MJF's history with Jungle Boy, I think that was quite cool. And seeing, just MJF square up to people who were standing in the audience was just fantastic. MJF is just brilliant. I would like to see him perhaps in a storyline or with a sort of mini feud for the next couple of weeks of Dynamite, something with a bit of substance that he can sink his teeth into. Because I think we're all sort of in this stage where he's undefeated, he should be challenging for the world title, why is he not? And we're sort of all waiting for that to happen and plodding along. But I think he needs something to sort of sink his teeth into. But for what this segment was, it was very good. Got MJF over as a heel, got him another win in the win column. It was very good.
Dante left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, here's $5 for Louis to take time out of his busy schedule to watch AEW Dark. I mean, there you go. Congratulations, Louis.
Thank you.
Anakin left us a super chat as well. Says, Alex, why were you so sad when you said AEW at first?
Well, I wasn't sad. I was conflicted because I believe that NXT for me had some really, really great stuff, and the low points of NXT were much lower than the low points of AEW. It was very close. It was
close.
Like 52% AEW. It was close to me because I really wanted to give it to NXT because, as we'll discuss, that triple threat match was all kinds of flame emojis.
Reba or Rebel or whoever tries to give an update on Britt, but Britt is in the back and she's screaming out at her to come talk. Of course, we're continuing the rules of being a role model. Rule number 4 is to never count out a role model. She says she's set for the comeback. She's ready to come back, like Rocky defeating Drago, like Michael Jordan making a comeback with the Washington Wizards, to which Tony Schiavone says, hey, you know what? The Wizards never made it to the playoffs. And Reba sort of makes a Space Jam joke, of course. Britt is fed up with both of them. She says, don't count me out, especially at All Out. Again, hammering home that she's going to be back at All Out. Louis, this was simple, good stuff. Britt Baker is entertaining as hell.
So All Out, firstly, yes, completely agree. Britt Baker's fantastic. I've said it before and I'll say it again. She has done the best character work I can remember for someone that can't wrestle.
Sure.
I'm probably most invested in her out of many people in AEW, whether that's the fact their women's division's not been great or just because Britt's so good, probably a combination of the two. But if All Out's next month, sort of 4 weeks away, 5 weeks away. Obviously, I presume that's still going to be the case. We don't know whether they might move it back to try and have fans or whatever the score is. It would be nice to perhaps see her getting slightly back into training, because if someone's in a wheelchair 4 weeks before a match against someone, I'd be pretty confident going into that match that I'm going to beat the person who's been in a wheelchair 4 weeks prior. So I think perhaps I'd like to see in the future her rehab and sort of training. They can do some funny training montages with her and Rebel. But I think that's just me being sort of a slight nitpicker. I very much enjoyed the segment. It was thoroughly enjoyable. Britt is fantastic. And yeah, I am excited for her eventual return, and I think it will take AEW's women's division to the next level, and she'll be the sort of big face that it needs.
We've talked about it in the past, Alex, the idea of doing the training montages with Britt. We saw a bit of it, but I mean, if she's angling for the comeback, we need to see the comeback montage, right?
No, absolutely. Like you can even have. I mean, I'm assuming we're building towards a big swole confrontation at All Out. So what it needs is Rebel or Reba, whichever one it is, with a harness tied to the wheelchair, pulling her up the side of a mountain, so that when Britt finally gets up there in the wheelchair, she can go big swole. That's the only way it'll work for me personally.
Taz came out along with Brian Cage. They said they had a difficult week with heavy discussions and arguments because of Taz's decision to throw in the towel, but he said he made a business decision. The longer that Jon Moxley kept that awesome armbar joint lock on Cage's surgically repaired bicep, it risked tearing it a second time. This led to Darby Allin coming out to confront Cage, but he gets blindsided by Ricky Starks, who helped out Brian Cage last night on AEW Dark, which I watched. And Starks and Cage basically work together to take out Allin. They powerbomb him on the stage, and then Starks hits an underhook gourd buster in the ring. Moxley comes out for the save. You could do a lot worse here with Darby Allin than pairing him up with Jon Moxley to fight off Brian Cage. I mean, this whole dynamic, I'm going to tell you, adding Ricky Starks in here, give me your thoughts. I don't want to, maybe I've already given you what I think, but tell me what you think, Louis. That's more important.
I very much agree. I think that Starks and Cage work so well because you've got the fact they're polar opposites. You've got the sort of flamboyance of Stark and Cage just being a monster. And when they're stood side by side, they don't look like they should work, but I think they have the potential to. And it definitely works. It'd be interesting to see how Taz incorporates that into sort of his shtick and what he's doing at the moment. But I'm very interested, and obviously it's great to see Stark in a storyline because we haven't seen much from him since he faced Cody. But again, similarly, the Allin and Moxley pairing, I'd quite like to see those two have sort of a bubbling odd couple pairing where they save each other because they've done it before and they'll do it again, leading to that eventual match whenever that is, and which will be fantastic. I think that'd be a great one of those sort of TV specials, Dynamite they do with the Fighter Fest or the Fight for the Fallen or the
Bash at the Beach.
One of those ones. If that was headlined by Moxley and Allin match, I think that'd be fantastic. Or even on a pay-per-view, I don't think many people would complain if we saw that. So, and it's someone that can probably take the loss, and Moxley could defeat. So yeah, I was very, 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 very high on the segment, and I am very excited for next week. I guess I'll mention now. They got a tornado tag match, which I just love tornado tag matches, with Starks and Cage versus Allin and Moxley. I mean, what a way to have Starks' his second Dynamite match, and he's in the ring with Brian Cage, Darby Allin, who's one of the most over people, and the AEW World Champion. And I think it just will do so much for all four. So yeah, this was fantastic for me. I thought this was great, and I'm very excited for next week.
Next, we got an announcement that AEW is going to be starting a Women's Tag Team Cup tournament. And they're going to be kicking it off with a deadly draw. It's not just a draw. It's deadly. And I don't know if that means that, they're putting names of the contestants in a bowl full of scorpions or piranhas maybe. I don't know exactly what that means, but clearly they're going to try and give some focus to the women's division by creating a tag team cup tournament. Anakin left us a super chat to this regard. Thank you, Anakin. Says that, not sure I understand the need for a women's tag team tournament if there's no tag titles, and especially when the women's singles division needs work. WWE at least has the depth for a tag division. Louis, tell us what you think about this.
So, I completely agree. Firstly, AEW, well done. You remembered that women can have storylines. And they can have something other than 2 minutes. So well done. But in all seriousness, I wish this was a singles tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Where the finals are held at All Out and the winner gets a title match at, I think it would be Full Gear, the November pay-per-view, have that play out. Have the finals, have like a whole tournament. Because for me, that's more character development than going, oh, look, tag teams, let's just chuck these two women together. I think that having a 16-woman tournament would be fantastic. Have the matches play out over Dynamite. And if you want to get more people watching Dark, put a couple of the matches on Dark. No one's going to mind. But as long as you put some of the matches on Dynamite and have Hikaru Shida scouting, the winner faces her. I think it'd be fantastic. I just don't see the need for a tag tournament, because what does the winner get?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
a cup.
There's no tag titles.
A cup.
It seems a bit. NXT does the Dusty Rhodes Tag Classic. Well, let's have our own tag cup with the women. It's like, oh, we're being different, but not really. I'm not accusing them of stealing the idea, but it just seems a bit. For me, it wasn't the right thing. I would have tried a singles tournament,
Sure.
but in saying that, hopefully we will now get to see some more women's matches on Dynamite, which was great. Perhaps some storylines with, I hope, a couple of sort of oddball pairings where that can lead into singles feuds. We'll get into talking about who I think one of the pairings will be later on. But it was confirmed that the Nightmare Sisters are going to be a team in the tournament. So it doesn't look like they're picking the names out of a hat. It looks like they've confirmed, but I mean, they're the only team, so who knows? But yeah, it's good. But I was kind of hoping for like a G1 tag tournament.
That would have been awesome. That would have been good.
But for the men,
Oh.
and then leading to FTR and the Young Bucks. That was my fantasy booking, but doesn't look like we're going to get that because we're getting the women. But as I said, women matches on Dynamite. However we're getting them, brilliant.
Personally, I don't have a problem if there's no tag titles really at the end of the line. Like, you know, we had a tournament for a diamond ring, right? In AEW, so you know, a cup, a ring, whatever. I think it's okay. And I'm in agreement with you. I think it would have been a lot more interesting to do singles, but then again, if they want to put as many women on TV, maybe this is the opportunity for them to create storylines, right? To create some interest, get as many faces out there as possible. And here's the thing that's really interesting. So the two things that I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt to see where they're going to go with this is, first and foremost, are they going to flesh out a lot of these wrestlers, these characters, and give them storylines, give them things to do outside of the tournament? That's one thing, because they do have a lot of women that don't have enough air, that haven't been on TV enough to really get us to care about them. So maybe that'll be one thing. Here's the other thing. If they want 16 women in the tournament, they don't have 16 women right now. So they're going to have to bring in other women as well. There's been a lot of talk about that recently. Shazza McKenzie put out a very heartfelt post yesterday on Twitter where she was asking if it wasn't for her to, in regards to Shida's challenge, her or a whole slew of other independent female wrestlers right now, if they can pick up some people there, not just guest appearances, actually hire women, because there are some fantastic women still out there. Holodead, Nicole Savoy, just to name those two that are off the top of my head. If they can bring in some of these women, I think it'd be fantastic. Dante left a super chat, says, I think we're getting I like that we're getting a women's tag tournament, but also wish that we ironed out the singles roster a bit more. We are in complete agreement on that. He says, I'm going with Abaddon and Ref Aubrey to win the tournament. That's a bold prediction.
I will also make a prediction.
Go ahead.
I predict that more than half of the matches will be on Dark.
Oh, well.
I'm just going by AEW's history. I every time I see what's the lineup on Dark, I'm like, well, there's a lot of women's matches on there. You'd think they could find time to put one of those in Dynamite, and they never do. So I'm just saying.
Look, these are all decisions that AEW brass is making. These are executive decisions, right? They're not like, oh, they're painting themselves into a corner. No, these are decisions that they're making. And if you're putting your women on the B show, then you're treating your women's division as a B level division. And then why would people care if you're not ready to put them on the main show? Anakin JMT left us a super chat, says maybe the Deadly Draw will be pulling from a bowl filled with bad WWE storylines. Yeah, you'd need a shipping container more than a bowl. Zach Barber.
A well.
A well. Zach Barber left us a super chat as well. Thank you, Zach. Says for the first time in a quarter century, the Lethal Lottery is back. I'd love that. I'd be and I mean it'd be the kind of thing that AEW would do. You know, throw back to the old WCW stuff. Taryn Riddick left us a super chat as well. Says, I would have Anna Jay and Abaddon return to TV as a team representing Dark Order and have them win. Oh, Alex likes that one.
What? Why not? You'd have to like have like Anna Jay become like a dark magician, like a sorceress of the dark arts.
I mean, there is a dark magician girl in Yu-Gi-Oh, but hey, you know what? Maybe my nerd is showing a little too much right now. We get Jericho, who's backstage, and he's complaining about his jacket from the events last week, saying he's going to embarrass Orange Cassidy and Jurassic Express. And he also reveals to us that Luchasaurus is not a real dinosaur, so much for kayfabe.
It was like when my mum told me Father Christmas or Santa wasn't real. Yeah. That was the same emotions that I went through when Chris Jericho shockingly revealed that Luchasaurus is not a real dinosaur. It genuinely upset me, and I nearly texted you saying I'm not going to be able to do the show tonight because I'm mourning.
Next, we had the Butcher and the Blade versus the Young Bucks in a Falls Count Anywhere match, and this match progressed magnificently. They're fighting in the kitchen of Daly's place because Butcher and Blade are cooks / butcher / caterers. Anyway, they start fighting. They throw lunch meat at each other. They slam each other on prep stations. Then they go out into the arena or into the backstage of the arena into a production truck where there's apparently a mud show on tonight. I don't know if you guys picked that up. They fight into the concessions, and there's a super kick by the Young Bucks onto Blade and onto an escalator, and he just disappears as we cut to commercial. What did you think of the match at this point, Louis, as they were just going wild with whatever they had around them?
I thought it was brilliant. I loved it. I love the idea of Butcher and Blade just handling meat. That sounded dodgy, but just being chefs, I guess. I thought the start of this match was chaotically brilliant. And if you told me even 2 months ago that I would be interested in seeing a Butcher and Blade match, I probably would have said, not really. Like, they're fine, but I don't really care. But I was really into this. I think the past few weeks with their involvement in the FTR stuff and their sort of odd couple pairing with Lucha Bros and the feud with Bucks and FTR. It's been great. So I now care about them. It's just another great team in AEW's tag division. So yeah, so far from this match, it was chaotically brilliant, and I loved it. And it only got better.
That's the thing. For me, it wasn't doing it personally. It wasn't doing it for me at first in the back. But when they got to the ring, oh boy. Butcher fights back against both of the Bucks. There's chairs and tables and flips. Butcher double suplexes the Jacksons. They set up some tables. Blade does a somersault dive to the floor on Nick against the table, but he completely misses the table. But I mean, like, by a country mile. Butcher doesn't miss the table, though, when he crossbodies Matt Jackson through a table, though. That was spot on. There's a nice bulldog dropkick combination by the Bucks. Some more tables come out at the top of the stage. Some fighting up there. Eventually, Butcher and Blade end up on the tables. The Bucks end up on top of the entrance ramps. They flip. and elbow drop from the top through the tables. They get the pin. I mean, it was a perfect match for Rick Knox to referee because there were no rules. So he was perfectly in his element regardless. Final thoughts on the match, Louis?
Well, firstly, I don't think there's been a show that I've done where you haven't thrown a subtle jab. Actually, not even subtle jab. A clear for all to see jab at Rick Knox. Do you have some sort of issue with him that no one's sort of addressed with you? Did you and him, were you and him friends at school and got into a fight?
Nothing personal. I'm just judging him on the quality of his work. You're here. People come here for opinion. And I think that Rick Knox lets the guys fight. Let's put it that way.
But yeah, this match was great. I mean, the Blade, how is he alive? That bump, man. Do you think he was supposed to go through the table?
Yeah, I think so. For sure. Matt was up against Nick was up against it.
But would they not just... This was taped last week.
Well, I guess they didn't retape it. What can I didn't know what to tell you.
I mean, it probably looked so good that they were like, well, so bad that it looked good that they were like, you know what, we'll keep it in. But yeah, this was brilliant. I think that... but I'm really interested in Butcher. I think he's brilliant. Yeah, I just thought that this was great. Young Bucks are great. I would have liked... Actually, I'm sort of torn whether I wanted to see a bit of FTR stuff. I kind of like that we didn't, so they don't have to be in the ring at the same time. And the FTR can go and do their own thing. Young Bucks can do their own thing. So I've actually just convinced myself now that it was the right thing to do, to not have them mixing it up on this episode. We've seen it a lot recently. And I think the sort of, we respect each other might get a bit boring if it's done every week. So this was the right thing to do, I think. But yeah, great stuff. And I like how AEW often puts like a great match on in the hour break. It's sort of the hour overlap. So yeah, this was very good. And if I was not doing this show and I had both shows on, I probably would have not, without knowing what was on with NXT at the same time, I can't remember off the top of my head, I wouldn't have felt the need to switch over.
No, this was a good match. It was wild. It was a good one. TD Stinger left us a super chat, says, Bucks are jerks. Butcher and Blade were just trying to do their day jobs, and the Bucks ruined their hard work by throwing the meat on the floor.
Well, I mean, they had a match. So the Butcher and Blade were just not prepared for the match. They didn't, I don't know where they're supposed to meet in the ring. So I have no sympathy for Butcher and Blade in this one. Young Bucks were just looking for them to start the match that had been scheduled and they knew was taking place.
Anakin left us a super chat, a couple of super chats actually. Thank you very much. Says, Louis, it's simple. When Warren sees Rick Knox, he's actually seeing DGMC, who is a member of the chat. And no, I mean DGMC. We don't have to talk about him. Anakin also left us a super chat saying plus 10 points to Warren for the Yu-Gi-Oh reference. Thank you. You're forgiven for bringing up DGMC. Lance Archer is talking with Alex Marvez, and he drags him into the locker room where he starts beating up some guys. He tosses a guy through the ceiling and then brilliantly dumps him in the trash. I'm going to go with Alex on this one, Louis, if you don't mind. Because Alex, I was looking at this and I said, well, this Lance Archer is the best Braun Strowman right now. Yeah.
Yes. No, he is. He's their version of it, along with the fact that they're not capitalizing on his Braun Strowman-ness in the moment. Maybe in like 2 years, when somebody has to drop out of a title program, they'll pitch him a title and say, what's up? Before that, though, he's going to team with a child and win the tag titles and then immediately give them up. I love him throwing a dude upwards into the sky, into the ceiling. That's a thing that I think guys should do more. More ceiling bumps, I think, as a rule in wrestling, need to happen. Just put low-hanging ceilings over a lot of matches and see what happens, I guess. This was great. It made me realize, like, in all seriousness, how into this kind of a destructive force that I am and why Braun Strowman popped me so much back in 2017, because nobody was doing stuff like that. And right now, nobody's doing stuff like this. So capitalize on it. Figure out a way to do something with him besides have interviews with him about how upset he is that they're not doing anything with him. It's a damn vicious circle. Like have him throw actual wrestlers into ceilings as opposed to, guys who are hanging out in locker rooms for no reason.
Luigi, you have a quick thought on this?
He should have thrown Alex Marvez through the ceiling.
We are cut from the same cloth, my friend. Next, we had Diamante versus Ivelisse, a rematch from AEW Dark last night, which I watched. We had a super chat earlier from Dante, who said Diamante ruled tonight. I thought this was a very solid match from both women. I thought it was even a little better from their dark match last night. They go straight after each other. Clearly, they just want to fight. And they fought hard. Great chop exchange, open hand slap, some kicks, German suplex on Ivelisse by Diamante, and it's an inside cradle that gets it done. Nice little match. We got some women actually in a competitive match with each other. Not quite sure which one of which is going to make it out. Louis, I'd like your thoughts.
Did this match happen last night on Dark?
Yes, it did. Were you watching?
No.
Okay. Excuse me for a second while I take a sip.
Point Warren.
Listen. I had things. I was interviewing FTR yesterday. I was a little bit busy.
Oh, look at me, big man. I interview FTR. Ooh.
They're my best friends now, so please don't be mean. But, right. I like this match. This was great. Would have been nice if they perhaps referenced it a little bit more, or built it up last week a little bit more. It sort of felt, they're having a match this week. Okay. They did a good job on commentary of sort of talking about their history together. I was a bit surprised at who won. I thought Ivelisse would win, but Diamante seems great. She's facing Hikaru Shida next week, which should be fun. Yeah, I thought this was good. A nice story development, nice character development. You sort of did protect Ivelisse in defeat, but having it with a small cradle. I thought, this was good. It was good stuff. I thought the action was good. I was impressed.
DGMC left us a super chat, says, thank you very much, says, give me Archer versus Kingston. Fear me, Warren. Nah, but Archer versus Kingston, yeah, I sign me up for that. That'd be great. Mike Lucas left us a super chat as well. Thank you very much. Says, the Motor City Machine Guns are better than the Young Bucks. Controversial, I know. Alex, you got a quick thought on that?
I mean, to each their own, I suppose. Like I like the Motor City Machine Guns. I don't think they're as good as the Young Bucks, but they're very good.
Hey Warren.
Yes.
This match didn't happen on Dark.
Hey, we can move along right here with Zach Barber's super chat, who says Diamante wrestled Kylie King on Dark. Listen, we have to move along here, folks. There's a pace to this match to this show here that we have to maintain. Adam Page.
I was about to shout
excuse me?
at AEW for not referencing it on commentary. I was going to be like, what lazy people. They had a match last night and they didn't even talk about it. What lazy commentary. What poor way to treat Dark.
Well, listen, I'll tell you one thing. The important part of a host is two things: make sure that things keep moving forward, and make sure that he shines above everyone else. Adam Page defeated 5 from the Dark Order here. Look, this was a beatdown. Page slugged 5 down really early, tossed him around on the floor into the barricades. Finally, the entire Dark Order come out. But when I say entire, Anna Jay wasn't there. Just saying. Mm-hmm. But Page was in control for this match. Lariats, power bombs. He power bombs 5 actually for the win. And again, AEW continuing with this trend of ending matches without actually going to a finisher, which I really like. After the match, Brody Lee and Colt Cabana come out. Lee has a microphone, comes to confront Page, basically says he's impressed with him and offers him a spot in the Dark Order. Page says that he's not ready to join a cult right now. Lee says, you just made your bed. Hope you have a good sleep in it. And gives the marching orders to Uno and the rest of the Dark Order attack him. Page tries to fight back. He's completely outnumbered. And finally, who comes out to save Adam Page? It's the FTR boys carrying a cooler that they crack across the heads of a couple of the over 3 and 4, I think. And finally, after a while, Kenny Omega comes out. Page shakes FTR's hands and accepts a beer. They leave, and he and Omega are in the ring. And the will they, won't they continues, Louis. This was a good segment.
Really good. Little bit too long, the match for my liking. I got a bit of flack on Twitter for saying, why is Adam Page taking so long to beat an enhancement talent? And apparently 5 or Alan Angles or Angels, whatever it is not an enhancement talent. So I'm wrong to say that, but he's an enhancement talent. Let's just get that clear. This match was a little bit too long, I thought. Just thought it could have been a little bit shorter, been a bit more. It was still convincing, but just a little bit more convincing for Page. And you know what I would have done? I would have made this a minute, 2 minutes shorter, and then not had the picture-in-picture where Big Swole was cutting the promo while Evilise and Diamante were wrestling. Would have had that after this segment to break it up a bit, show, you know what, the women's matches aren't to show other women's feuds. There can be women's feuds across the show. Have that match, have that segment played after that. So yeah, but the post match was perfect for me. Like really good. FTR coming down, saving Page before Omega did. I think it thought it was perfect. With so many ways this could go. We could go be leading to FTR and Page versus Omega and the Young Bucks. We could be leading to those 3 part of the 4 Horsemen faction. There's so many options, which I love. This was perfect for me. The post-match was really good. And as I said earlier, I've now convinced myself that not having FTR and the Young Bucks mix it up every time is a good thing. So they can do their own things, be part of AEW's awesome division. So yeah, good stuff.
Harold Romero left us a super chat. Thank you very much, Harold. Says, honestly, wanted Butcher and Blade to win. Yeah, that would have... it would have been just a nice surprise. It was mentioned, right? No one really expected Butcher and the Blade to win, right, Louis? It would have just been a nice little twist.
I expected them to win as much as I expected Evilise to beat Diamante on Dark last night.
Jurassic Express faced off against the Inner Circle. Jericho comes in, and I like the fact that he was looking up in the rafters, coming into the ring in his orange stained $7,000 jacket. Jungle Boy, again, this is the kind of stuff that I really like, Louis. Jungle Boy fighting Jericho again. It's been a couple of times, since there. He always manages to get like the upper hand on him, right? And every time there's a little more that happens to it, and Jericho always seems to be in a little more trouble. I like this. You feel, actually, that this is some long-term storytelling that they're planting here, that eventually we are going to go back to a Jungle Boy Jericho feud, and it's going to be very different than the first time that they met.
Yeah, agreed. I like what AEW does, where they've got lots of little plates spinning just quietly in the background. Every so often they'll go back to it and have a little segment or have a little this and remind you that these two had a match. So yeah, this was great. This was great match. Great having these two involved. We're going to see them again next week because we've got Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy and the Best Friends versus all of giving something away there, but all of Inner Circle, because hey, we have a return.
We do.
But yeah, Should we get on to talking about the return now?
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Hager and Luchasaurus slug it out as well, and then the Inner Circle getting control of Luchasaurus. He becomes the babyface in peril for the first part of the match. Jungle Boy gets a great hot tag where he pescados onto Santana and Ortiz, who of course are on the outside. Gets back into the ring with a slingshot DDT on Jericho, but the heels get back in control, and then it's Jungle Boy's turn to be Ricky Morton. Jericho and Aubrey Edwards fight over the bat, which was pretty good. Jericho really likes Aubrey Edwards. It shows. The Luchasaurus eventually gets the hot tag. He's in with some kicks and strikes. Jungle Boy takes out Hager. There's Marco Stunt who interferes, and and Luchasaurus hits a super kick on Jericho, who kicks out really at a sliver at a 2.9, like we hadn't seen in a while. And then, throughout all the chaos, Serpentico, who was in the audience, jumps the barricade, grabs the bat that was tossed away by Jericho, and takes advantage of a distraction to use it, and Jericho ends up getting the win. They all beat up on Jurassic Express after the match, and we think that Serpentico has joined Inner Circle, but no, he unmasks, and it's Sammy Guevara back from his sensitivity training and his therapy already. Man, that's some flash therapy right there. Give me some. First of all, give me your thoughts on the match overall, Louis.
Match was great. Match was very good. It was 3 of the 4 involved are fantastic, and 1 is fine. I'll let you guys decide which one's fine, but he has some swagger to him. Yeah, it great match, but I don't know how to feel about the post-match.
Go ahead.
30 days Sammy's been gone. I've never had to do sensitivity training. I don't know whether that's how long, but the length of the suspension isn't the issue for me. It was sort of the way he was brought back, and it was like, he has returned. Look at him. Well, how we've missed him, and he's now back. And it sort of was like, it was the sort of thing that you did if Guevara was injured, and then he returned in this way. But then again, you wouldn't want to bring him back and not have him sort of in this segment. I think it would have been a waste if he just came out. I don't know how to feel, and I think I might just being overly being overly sensitive because it's 4 a.m, and overthinking it. But I don't know. How about you guys? What did you think about it? Am I just being a bit dramatic?
Alex, give me some thoughts about this.
This is the thing about this is that whenever he came back, however he came back, it was always going to feel like this. Like I don't know that 30 days is too short of a time, and I don't know that, like, if he had been gone for like 6 months, and then he came back, would we remember? Like, so it's like, is there a way to, like, is there a point where he comes back where it's the right amount of time? I don't know. Is there a way to bring him back that it's the right way to bring him back? I don't know. It's always going to feel weird. It's always going to feel like this. I don't like it. And you're not supposed to like it because you're not supposed to like what it was that he did that got him suspended. So now we're just going to say, like, okay, are we rooting for him? Is there a way that Sammy Guevara, the person and not the wrestler, can show us every day that he's learned from his mistake, that he's sorry for it, and that he can move on, so that we can continue to root for, and be impressed by the Sammy Guevara who gets in the ring every Wednesday? Is there a way to do that? I like to think that there is, to prove in a way that he has moved on, but I don't know that he's done that yet. He's just been gone for a month. He said he was sorry a couple of times. Now he's back. Do we all just accept it and move on? I think your mileage may vary, but right now I'm gonna wait and see if he does anything to really prove that he's a changed guy. Does he understand why he had to go away? And what's he going to do now to prove that he's never going to do anything like that again? I don't know.
I think for me, and I've just thought about this, but maybe dealing with it up front at the beginning of Dynamite and saying, listen, my suspension is now over. I'm going to be returning to weekly television. Do another short apology. I think that could have been a good way to show that he's moved on and not treat it like a return from injury, like a big pop if the crowd was there.
Yeah.
But as you say, we don't know. Thank God we're not in positions where we have to decide how to bring back someone like that onto a weekly television show that we're running.
I'm just going to wrap it up with this. I think I'll probably have some more thoughts about it on my show tomorrow, but just for now, I'm going to leave it with this. I think there would have been another way to bring him back other than having him be the hero and saving his team at the end. That's what made it a little weird for me. Joe Hansen left us a super chat. Thank you very much, Joe. Says, Ivelisse really changed up her look and name since their dark match yesterday. Impressive. So that was AEW, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the super chat, Joe. That was the AEW tonight. J. Cole left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, donation to Wild Boys GoFundMe. Thank you. And some dollars to these three studs. I don't know who you're talking about, but thank you very much for the super chat. Anakin left us another super chat as well. Says, Warren stopped needing to pay close attention to non-WWE or main AEW matches when he got on the other side of the select paywall. Hashtag Louis on Quizzlemania. There's a lot of stuff going on in that super chat right there. Let's talk about NXT. NXT began with the big announcement from William Regal, Alex. His big announcement was that he was giving Keith Lee some time to talk. Wow. I was straight up. My mind was blown, honestly.
I so wanted him to just William Regal has a big announcement. Him just becoming and go War Games. No, I'm just kidding. It's not War Games. I'm just messing with you. We're gonna do that in November again. But for now, it's Keith. Hey Keith, you want to say something? I think it makes sense. Like Keith Lee says, I don't want to, defend both of these things. They did that with Becky Lynch, and it was kind of like this weird thing where she was pulled in two directions for a while when she was two belts. Becky Lynch. I agree with his thing of saying, I want this to be something that new opportunities for new people to come for the North American title. The North American title in NXT has always been that title. To me, not always, but it has felt like it's been like a major stepping stone in NXT. You go for the North American title, then you can vault your way up possibly to the actual NXT title. And that's certainly what Keith Lee did. So I like that he's saying, I'm relinquishing this, and I want as many people to have a shot at it as possible. And then, we get William Regal to do his like a series of matches, and great triple. Like they're having 5 triple threats, so 15 guys get a hypothetical shot at this title, and I'm totally here for it. They do a ladder match. It's gonna be the 5-way ladder match at Takeover 30, which is it feels like a Super Bowl. Takeover 30. That's a cool idea. This is all really good. I guess the alternative would be you have Keith Lee lose a match, and they don't want to do that because they'd rather him not have to lose a match to lose that title because they still want to keep that momentum going with Keith Lee, which makes sense.
Actually, when I saw the graphics for Takeover 30, I thought that somehow Vin Diesel or maybe Ice Cube was going to be involved in it. Louis how do you feel about Keith Lee giving up the title? A little lukewarm? Do you think maybe it was a bit of a cop out? Did we have to have the winner take all ultimately? If ultimately we're just relinquishing a title.
That's a good point.
I know it's 4 a.m.
Yes,
yeah, I'm laying in the hard questions.
It's interesting because I was very much that I got myself hoping that we'd see a triple threat match where the first fall was for the North American title. The second fall was for the NXT title. Killer Kross would win the North American title, have his fall. He's got what he's wanted, so we don't get Killer Kross and Keith Lee right now. But then what Alex was saying made me think it's great. We get 15 guys, one of whom, who we'll go on talking about later, hasn't had a lot of time to shine on NXT, but looking forward to seeing him in the ladder match. So I think it will be a chance to see 15 people. And I like that it's not singles matches, it's triple threats. So 15 people in. So I'm torn, but I think it was probably the right decision not to have Keithy. And actually fills me with a lot of hope and sort of positivity that they think they're going to book him very well and not just have him be jobbed out, because they clearly don't want to have him lose anytime soon, that they don't want him to drop the title. So yeah, I'm positive. I'm giving NXT the benefit of the doubt, which to their credit they've more than earned over the years.
The Line Drive left us a super chat. Thank you very much. It says, maybe unintentional, but I thought it was a nice choice to do a ladder match just like when the title was first introduced, and give the title an identity. Alex, I feel it's a full circle kind of decision as well.
Yeah, especially because that North American first North American ladder match had so many like new faces and guys you didn't think were certainly, a lot of them weren't quite unquote ready for the main title. But this is why we have the North American title, why it was introduced, to give everybody that, that IC title in NXT, to give them that boost towards something bigger. So I think it's a nice little bit of symmetry.
Next, we had Dexter Loomis taking on Killian Dane. This was a brawl. Brawled quite a bit. Dane crossbodies Loomis on the floor, uses the barricades to get an advantage. Dane stays in control for a while in this match. Dexter Loomis took a beating, Alex.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point of Killian Dane. He's there to administer a beating and then lose. That's his whole aesthetic. And that's fine. You need a guy like that, a heel who's going to put the guy you're rooting for in peril. So, I don't believe that the guy I am rooting for will be able to overcome the odds. And then he does, and you're like, well, thank God for that. Moving on to the next match. It's a thing that we need in wrestling. It's a tired trope, but if it's done well, it can be effective. Killian Dane does that really well. I don't know if there's a ceiling for him beyond that at this point in his career in WWE, which kind of sucks because Big Damo was like on fire when he first showed up. Like when he first got signed, that guy was amazing on the indies in Europe and everywhere. Like I loved watching him, and I still did when he was part of like Sanity. Mm-hmm. Like it felt like they were really going to push him, and then they put him up on the main roster and just forgot about all of them. And I don't think he's ever been able to get the kind of momentum he needs back because of the role that he is playing, which is the guy who administers a beating and then loses. Dexter Loomis is a really hard guy to define because he's obviously a serial killer and yet he's a babyface. I don't know how that works, but it does. And this was the guy who we've always seen him kind of be the heavy in his matches, even though you're rooting for him. He beats Roderick Strong all over the place, but you're still rooting for him, and because we hate Roderick Strong. In this case, we've decided we like Dexter Loomis. The man is an artist. We respect the talent that he has with pen and paper. So we want him to win. And eventually he does, and I did like that Dane was like fighting up until the end, and then took his that sit out Uranagi directly into the whatever they call that thing, his little lap sleeper. That's it. Once you get put in that, once he puts your head in his lap, that's it. It's all she wrote when you're wrestling Dexter Loomis.
It's interesting just to come back to Killian Dane when the way you were talking about him. It kind of reminds me of the role that Cassius Ohno had, right up until before he left for NXT UK. But that was essentially it. Just taking on guys, delivering beatings, but never winning the big one ultimately. Dexter Loomis picks up the win here. It's good because he's going to be a busy boy next week. But we'll get to that in a second. Yeah. We get Roderick Strong and Bronson Reid and Johnny Gargano arguing backstage. Quick thought here, Alex. Outside of Johnny Gargano calling Roderick Strong a goof, I think you could tell who needs a little more promo class between these three guys right here.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's the point of it is that you have guys like Roderick Strong was on TV for a while before he ever showed up. Gargano's been the focal point of NXT for years. Bronson Reid is still an up-and-comer, hasn't had a lot of time to do that kind of stuff. Most of what he does is just literally throw his weight around in the ring and then lose up until this point. He hasn't had a lot of time to like hone his, talking skills. I still think there's an opportunity for him to do that. And Bronson Reid might be the perfect guy for a guy like, let's say, Malcolm Bivens to manage. Like the perfect dude who might need somebody who can do all the talking while he does all the hossing. Like that's the perfect thing since, hopefully they've decided to suspend Indus Sher for the rest of time for ruining that winner take all match.
You seriously think that wasn't planned?
Well,
they of course they told him to post that.
Johnny, well, let's get into the match, actually. Let's get into the triple threat since we're talking about it, where Bronson Reid defeated Johnny Gargano and Roderick Strong. This was a good match.
So good.
Reid tosses the heels onto the floor early on, and they try to team up, but they don't trust each other. I love the little segment at first where they...
That was so good. On three, we both get in the ring.
1, 2, 3, and they both
three. I knew you weren't going to do it.
Fantastic.
That was great. So good.
Reid swats both of those guys around for a good part of the match until Roderick Strong knees him on the side of the head. And then the heels team up for real this time. But Reid just keeps fighting back, Alex. They do their best to try and keep him down, but he's always got an answer for it.
Man, that when they announced this was the match, I was like, well, here's two guys in Strong and Gargano that can afford to take a loss. Two former NXT North American champions. If the whole deal is we want to put new guys in the title picture, then Bronson Reid should win this match. I didn't actually think he was going to. I was so pleased, and he showed out in this.
Yes, he
thing.
did.
Gosh, he had some great spots. I still cannot get over how he had Gargano in like the Scorpion Death Drop position. And then he got Roderick Strong in the rock bottom position, and then Uranagi'd Roderick Strong through Gargano, both of them into the mat. Like he had no chance to really get his weight behind it, to like use his hips. It was all arm and shoulder to get Roderick Strong, who's not tiny, on top of that was an amazing spot. His spot with the double Samoan drop, all that stuff, and also. He sold the beating of two men so well, two much smaller men. But the stuff that they did to him, you felt like, yeah, that would actually really hurt a big dude. Like getting kneed in the face before you got powerbombed onto the mat on the outside of the ring. Yeah, that's all great. Like everything he did, the selling, all of his power work, it was so good. And it made you really, really root for the guy. I thought at some point, near the end, I was like, well, that's it. The power bomb to the outside.
Murdered him.
That's how they got rid of Bronson Reid. But what an amazing match. That guy proved so much in this match, even though he lost. And then he came back and won, and I was so happy for him.
It was fantastic. It really was a fantastic match. There was a spot where Gargano slingshotted Strong into Bronson's crotch, which got a good giggle out of it. It was a good spot. It worked really well in the context. He hits a senton at some point, Reid does. And let's not underplay the fact that Strong hit an Olympic slam on Reid as well, which is something in itself. To me, the spot of the match was Gargano, who ends up in an electric chair position on Reid's shoulders. And Roderick Strong flies off the top rope, but Gargano leans back, avoiding avoiding Roderick Strong's flying knee. But as he's leaning back, Poison Rana's ya boy Bronson. That was good stuff. Gargano hits a slingshot DDT, but Reid on Strong. But Reid flies off the top rope with a big splash before Gargano can get the full cover on him. And he gets the win. And you know what I also like about this? Pushing new guys. I'm all for it.
Yes. So great. And I loved the way that they handled the finish as well, with Bronson still on the outside, where Strong hits that amazing like super gut buster on Gargano, who has enough in him to do his final heartbeat DDT, but he's still selling the damage from the gut buster, so he's not able to get over and cover, and all he can do is put a hand on him. And when Bronson Reid comes down, he not only squashes Roderick Strong, but he breaks Gargano's hand, and Gargano's like, this is great. Like I've never seen that kind of a finish in triple threat match. I thought that was fantastic.
Rafael Garcia left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, I need Bronson Reid to hit the big splash from the top of the ladder. I don't care if it's considered attempted murder in 36 states. It's allowed in Florida. I need it. Hashtag, I'm a Bronson Reid guy. Yeah. I mean, just the fact that he's going to be in the match after what we saw tonight, I'm excited about it. Yeah. This is recommended viewing, folks. Go out of your way to watch this match. It's a good time. We also had Dakota Kai saying that she's coming for Io Shirai. I'm okay with that. That should be good. Yep. Then we get Evereyes versus Breezango, who come out as Mounties because Evereyes are Canadians. I mean, outside of the Breezango entrance, I don't think there's really much to say about this match, Alex. Breezango got the win.
No, I just want to say that to Breezango. I mean, listen, 2 weeks ago you came out dressed as luchadors, mocking Mexico's culture. This week you come out as the Mounties, mocking Canada's culture. When will it end? Is there no foreign country whose culture you will not mock? Breezango, you're so insensitive. That's just a joke. I thought this was all fantastic. I love Breezango, and it's a weird thing that they're holding down the tag division because Eichner and Bartel are missing in action. You took the belts off of Thatcher and Riddle to hot shot Riddle up onto the main roster where he's doing stuff, and now you got Eichner and Bartel who are nowhere to be found. Maybe you could have hot shotted the belts onto a team that lives in Florida. I don't know where Bartel and Eichner. I was assuming they did live in Florida because Walter isn't there, and he lives in Europe. And I know he's got friends who are those like Bartel and Eichner are European, but I don't know. They haven't mentioned the tag belt. They weren't on Great American Bash. They didn't mention anything as far as that goes. I'm just wondering what's the deal with that. And I don't like doing maybe somebody caught something. I don't like doing that, but you kind of are forced to when they never mention anything about their tag champs.
Trestle Walk left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, Tom Phillips's "Oh my God" after Morrow's Eager Beavers made my day. Yeah. They're developing a good chemistry though, those two, as the weeks progress. Yeah. Anakin JMT left us a super chat. Thank you, Anakin. Says, just a reminder, Tyler Breeze doesn't play with a full deck. Hashtag DeParty. Line Drive left us a super chat as well. Thank you very much. As Breezango has been working so well lately, it really seems like a missed opportunity they didn't do a title switch, especially with Imperium gone. Louis, what do you think about this? Because Imperium are missing in action right now. Any thoughts?
It's normally if a champion hadn't been on television for weeks, I would be like, you know what, that's not right. You need to put your champion on television normally every week. But as Alex alluded to, in the current climate, who knows why people aren't on television. They might have made the call not to. They might have unfortunately come down with something. We're not saying they have, just speculative, which again, I don't like to do either. So I don't look too much into who's on TV every week and who's not, because at the end of the day, we just don't know why certain people aren't. And I'm sure when they put the tag titles on them, they were fully intending them to be on TV every week. So it's difficult, and it's one where I think you got to see how it progresses. If it gets to the point where it's ridiculous and they're not on TV for months, then it's something you have to address. But if it's a couple of weeks thing, perhaps that's something that a feud could continue. But I don't think that NXT would be the sort of people to just not have them on TV if they had nothing for them.
Next, we had Alia versus Shotzi Blackheart again. This was fun. It was all about the story. However, I will mention here that that Alia's snap suplex followed by a float over into a Northern Lights suplex on Shotzi was really nice. I thought that was cool. But Shotzi mounted a comeback, hits an enziguri, a butterfly suplex, and then hits a top rope senton after knocking Robert Stone off the apron, wins the match, runs over the leg with the tank again. So we're like all having a good chuckle at Robert Stone being potentially crippled again. But Alex, who comes to save him but Mercedes Martinez? She drives off Shotzi, and then later in a segment, we see Stone and Mercedes backstage, where Mercedes walks up to him and says, look, I want you to handle the paperwork, all the stuff that I don't like to handle. You take care of it, but don't overstep your boundaries when it comes to my business. I settle my stuff in the ring. You sign my papers. Give me some thoughts, Alex.
Okay, so it should be mentioned, Shotzi ran over the other leg. So now he's got 2 broken ankles or whatever it is that happens when you get run over by a power wheels. Mercedes comes out and attacks Shotzi. And then backstage, we see what she says. Listen, I'm here. I got to wrestle. I want you to handle all that crap, all the paperwork, all that stuff. You give me matches. If you overstep your bounds, I will permanently break both your legs. And it's the permanently that got me, because bones knit. You know, like you can heal broken legs. She's going to permanently break both his legs. And so now I really need to see Robert Stone overstep his bounds. I don't know how that happens, but I do not take Mercedes Martinez as a woman who makes threats lightly. So after Robert Stone oversteps his bounds, I want to see what she does to permanently break both of his legs. I just want to know how you do that, because that's just it's enticing to me. But here's what I wanted very much out of this at the end. I wanted to say, okay, the first thing you do is get me a match with X. My personal choice is Rhea Ripley, but I want give me a match with whoever it is that she wants to face. Like, have her pick her opponents, and then it's up to Robert Stone to find out a way to get a match with that person. Otherwise, he's going to have both of his legs permanently broken. I think that's a really good way to get your comedy character doing comedy stuff while also featuring this murder machine of the women's division. I think it's a perfect way to balance everything.
I think if we're clearly leading into probably leading into a feud with Shotzi Blackheart, and as far as a potential feud goes and a potential match, I think this has a lot of potential. Shotzi is very, very good. She's been around the block on the indie circuit quite a bit. Mercedes, well, I mean, I don't know how much more we can sing her praises week after week, but she's wrestling royalty to a certain degree. Could be doing worse as far as the first program for Mercedes Martinez in NXT right now. Alex,
I mean, my dream is Rhea Ripley. Like that's the perfect one, because Rhea's not doing anything. Io's got a thing going on with Dakota Kai. I don't know how long that's going to last, but I'd love for Mercedes Martinez to say, listen, I have boots older than you. Like, I've been doing this for a long damn time, kid. And I don't like that you think you can come in here and be queen bitch on campus. I'm going to, I want to make sure that you don't overstep your bounds, because maybe then I'll permanently break both your legs. Like, I just wanted that. Can we figure out a finishing maneuver that Rhea Ripley could do that's just like the double permanent leg breaker? I don't know what that is, but figure it out.
We're gonna figure out something for you, Alex. We're gonna do some medical research for next week's show. We're gonna figure this one out. Rafael Garcia left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Says I need a tank point of view camera just with Schatzi running people down each week. Yeah. That'd be great.
We need, like, when Tyler Breeze used to do it on his phone, and you see it on the entrance ramp. We need like a GoPro attached to the front of her tank. See, when you see her running over Robert Stone, it's just the funniest thing.
Trestle Walk. It's a wordplay on Wrestle Talk. Left a super chat. Yes, I know. Thank you. Thank you very much. Says, are there any faces left in the women's division? Well, Alex mentioned Rhea Ripley, and there's Tegan Knox. Those are the two that just come off the top of my head. But
I mean, Shotzi's now mired firmly in the mid card, dalliancing with Alia, but she was being pushed as something. She's the one who eliminated Shayna Baszler from that battle royal. Like, they were pushing her at some point as being a new face in that division, and they kind of like just let her sink back down the card. So I'm not really sure.
Io as well. She's a bit.
Well, obviously, yeah. She's the champion. I'm trying to think of like if there's other baby faces that could be challengers in the way. I don't. Tegan Knox is the big one.
Anakin left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Anakin says, just thought of this. Could NXT do a mini women's tag tourney with winner getting title shot to counter AEW's tag tourney, since AEW has tag titles? I wouldn't put it past them.
Oh no, they're definitely trying to find any way they can counter program everything. It would be nice though if WWE, you know, the company that's been around for several decades and, you know, has a lot more to work with than AEW, could come out with ideas that AEW has to counter instead of the other way around, you know.
We're getting some super chat suggestions for how to permanently break legs. TJ Ridgeway left one. You guys are weird. TJ Ridgeway left one. Thank you.
Don't you guys us.
No, not you guys. You guys, you know what I think about you guys. TJ Ridgeway says, sharpshooter till both legs break. Mike Lucas left us a super chat as well. Thank you, Mike. Says, a deep Boston crab should do just fine for a Robbie. So not only should we break them, but we need to torture them in the process.
Yeah.
Poor Robert Stone. Anakin left us another super chat. Thank you again, Anakin. Says, as long as... circling back to our discussion about the absence of champions, he says, as long as champions aren't on the Brock schedule, I'm okay with them being off TV a week or two. Timothy Thatcher took on Oni Lorcan tonight. I was a little surprised. I thought they were going to save this perhaps for the Fight Pit, but I guess there's still room for that considering the conclusion. Well, I mean, this was exactly what you would have expected from these two guys. A lot of grappling, both guys fighting for positioning early on and leverage. Thatcher has the leg. Oni follows in with some strikes to release the leg, but eventually Thatcher gets back in control. Thatcher winches Lorcan and gets him in a bow and arrow, and sort of leans over to get Oni into a pinning position. I thought that was really, really good. Double wrist locks, Lorcan with European uppercuts, flying European uppercuts. We even get the we get half and half suplex. Thatcher fish hooks Lorcan again, and the ending comes when Oni has him in an arm lock. Thatcher maneuvers into a lateral press since he can't get out of the arm lock, and keeps Lorcan's shoulders pinned down for the win. So Alex, to a certain degree here, was like evenly matched. It's just Thatcher was a little smarter here. I kind of feel that there's still more room for this feud if WWE believes in it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing is that these two guys are so evenly matched. This was so great. I loved like Thatcher has a counter for some of the chops, but he can't keep his arms up to block the chops. Like when he just kept chopping his forearms, which was great. Like, get those out of my way, and I'm gonna keep chopping you now again. This is great. Like Thatcher's a tough son of a bitch. Like this, I mean, like that's what this proved. Like he was selling the arm the whole time, and he got into a position where like I'm gonna have to tap. I can't get out of this hold, so I'm going to figure out a way to roll him over onto his shoulders and get the tights. Otherwise, I lose, and Thatcher does not want to lose. This was all really, really great. I think that this is one of those rivalries that can continue over months. Sure. Like every now and then they run afoul of each other. Let's have another match, as opposed to one match every 2 or 3 weeks for 2 months, where we might get tired of it. I think this might be something where we can actually see them come back to it later.
Especially in the fight pit.
Especially in the fight pit. That's the way you're actually going to finish this feud. But yeah, I was a big fan of this. This was some really hard hitting stuff.
I think it'd be nice to see them both as part of the ladder match as well, maybe. I think that it's nice when there's like a feud going on where they mix in matches. Like there's matches that they're both booked in by winning other matches or just by proxy, like in a Money in the Bank match, for example, when you got two rivals that are just, instead of having them in a lazy one-on-one match, it's a nice way to extend a feud, have them mix it up again without your traditional one-on-one. So I think if you put those two in and gave them the takeover platform, that'd be pretty cool.
Well, Thatcher might have a chance to be in the North American title next week because thanks to a promo by Finn Balor, a good one at that, we discovered that next week's triple threat qualifier is going to be Finn Balor versus Dexter Loomis versus Timothy Thatcher. That should be a good time. The Line Drive left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, Thatcher and Oni wrestling each other is like watching Link fight Shadow Link in Ocarina of Time. They just mirror each other. Yeah, and especially they were both in blue gear tonight as well. Anakin GMT left us a super chat. Thank you again. Anakin says, mild spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2, but a hammer has been shown to permanently break limbs.
Well, I was thinking something she could do in the confines of a regular match, but yes. You're right. Hammers work well.
You know, look, I mean, we had an eye for an eye match, Alex. You never know what WWE might pull out next. Rafael Garcia.
You never know.
Rafael Garcia, in the same vein, left a super chat. Thank you again. Says, I know Alex has seen Misery. That's how you break legs. The old back of the axe trick.
No, we're not hobbling anybody while they're in bed. No, you dirty birdie. Stop it.
Early on, we also had a promo from Isaiah Swerve Scott. Alex, he likes to dance. He likes to make music. I think this is a guy who likes to have fun.
You know, it's odd, but it was one of those things where I could have sworn, like I had the sense that he might be a guy who likes to have fun. I don't know what it is about him, like when just looking at him, where I think that maybe, according to the people who run WWE, that he might like to have fun. But, I mean, usually you can kind of spot these things. I'm glad he's getting promo time. I'm glad that they're talking about how he's the only guy who's beaten Santos Escobar, by the way, who was not on the show this week. That's a definite lack of Legado del Fantasma that I am not here for. Those guys should be on the show all the time. But yes, we're moving toward a Scott versus Santos match, and I can't wait to see it.
Main event time, where we had Karrion Kross versus Dominik Dijakovic. This was a good, strong match. I thought it was really well paced. Test of strength to start, some back and forth. Dijak doing his best to try and get one over Karrion Kross, but he just can't do it. He hits a release suplex on Kross, a sit out choke slam. Can't put Kross away with them. Even a tope con hilo by Dijak can do it. But Killer Kross kicks he kicks the stairs against the steel stairs, the unforgiving steel stairs against Dijakovic's head, and Dijak just passes out. He's done. He's knocked out. He drags him back into the ring. He pins him down and just doesn't want to end the match. Just wants to punch him some more. Just wants to hit him some more. That brings Keith Lee down to the ring to sort of be there for his friend. We talked about this, Alex, last week. We talked about how we had to raise the stakes to make this personal. But I want to hear your thoughts about it, because the match came to an end when, well, actually, it stretched out a little bit. Killer Kross didn't exactly end the match when Keith Lee was there. Keith Lee wanted to interfere, but Dijak insisted that he didn't get in, that he shouldn't interfere. And eventually Kross just Kross put Dijak in the Kross jacket. Referee stopped the match, despite the fact that Keith Lee wanted to help. He honored what his friend asked, despite the fact that his friend got choked out. Walk us through this. What do you think about it, Alex?
Well, this is one of those things that would work a lot better if there were stakes to the match, because there were none at all. And when I was watching Dijak, because that's what I call him, because Dijakovic, Dijakovic, whatever. Dijak saying, no, don't throw in the towel. I could take this guy. Well, you can't. Like, every time you say that, he rolls you back over onto your back, and you don't put up a guard, and he just elbows you in the temple. So no, you don't got this guy. It'd be one thing if the stakes were, if Dijakovic loses this match, then he can never have another title shot as long as he is in WWE or something. Like, what is so important that you can't lose this match, Dijak? Pride? That's bullshit. I'm sorry, that's bullshit. Like, I don't understand what that is. Like, you just had a run in with Kross last week. As far as I know, you never met the guy before last week. So what do you care? What is the deal? Like, I understand this is supposed to build. Now it's personal between Karrion Kross and Keith Lee. That's great. That's a great way of doing that. You can do that without having Dijak be like, no, Keith, my best friend in the world, who I only became friends with last week. Please don't throw in the towel. I gotta do this myself. If he kills me, it's okay, because I gotta win this match where there's no stakes. Like, there needed to be something else added to this to make it really make sense. All of the other aspects were there to tell a really great story, but the context of it was lacking. So I really appreciate now that Keith Lee wants to murder Karrion Kross, but there was a middleman somewhere that got all messed up, because I don't understand why Dijak couldn't just lose the match. Like, have Karrion Kross beat him, and then after the match, Karrion Kross won't take him out of the chokehold, and now he's completely passed out. And then after the match is over, after he's already won, he just keeps hitting him with forearm shots, and the refs can't pull him off, and he just keeps doing it. Like, he's gonna beat this guy to death, and Donovan Dijak is just sitting there. He can't fight back at all. Then you have Keith Lee rush out. Like, the Dijak, like, saying don't throw in the towel doesn't make any sense in this context.
This aligns with a few things that have changed in NXT, where everything always has to be extremely personal or world ending and
super dramatic.
Extremely dramatic. And this is a bit, I think it's like we say in French, a faux pli, a bad habit that's been developed since the whole Ciampa Gargano stuff, where every main event has to have these super emotional stakes, and we have to force them in it. Whereas the stakes should be big enough. It's your top championship and you have a top contender who just happens to be a psychotic murder man. The stakes build themselves it's weird sometimes that WWE just doesn't want to lean into the most basic stuff and always feel that they have to add on this layer, which is okay, but not necessary and just adds a level of melodrama that maybe we don't need.
Yeah.
Colt Badoo left us a super chat, says at least, thank you very much, says at least DIJAK got a good send-off to Raw. Well, it is.
That's what we believe.
That's what we
yes.
believe.
Do you know who broke that news?
No. Tell us, Louis.
It's your good British friend from over the pond.
Oh, Tom Collahue. Good for him. Whiteful Pro Pressling left us a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, coming back to Swerve, says, let's not forget Swerve's logo looks like it's written in some manly body fluid. Thank you. Thank you for reminding us. Anakin JMD left us a super chat. Says, Alex, we have seen screwdrivers used in Hell in a Cell match. Do you really think WWE wouldn't use a ball peen hammer? We're still talking about breaking legs.
Listen, I totally understand. If Mercedes Martinez is only going to wrestle like unsanctioned matches, like only under hardcore rules, fine. But I'd like her to be able to like do this when she's not going to be disqualified for it. Personally, that's just my own thing.
TJ Ridgway left us another super chat. Thank you. TJ says, a curb stomp to the knees through a cinder block.
Yeah, why not? Sure. That'd get the job done.
You guys are great. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was NXT. That was the show, actually. We're going to wrap this one up tonight. Thank you to Alex and Louis. Louis, let the people know where they can find you on social media.
At the Louis Dangoor. That's me. I've got Wrestle Talk interviews coming on Friday, an interview that I did with FTR. So check that out. And I've also, for a little tease, I'm going to be interviewing someone that was on either NXT or AEW next week. So
that narrows the field.
Check that out.
Thank you, Louis.
It does. So it's not Marcel Bartel or Fabian Eichner.
Good point.
There you
go. Thank you. Thank you very much, Louis. Alex, let the people know about you.
You can follow me at Alex Sour Graps on the Twitter. And I do 2 shows, one on Tuesday and one on Saturday, where I talk about Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. And sometimes I talk about eye for an eye matches and how funny they are, because this little googly eye is an actually more accurate prop than the ping pong ball they used when they took out Rey Mysterio's eyeball.
You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Warren Hayes, or follow me. Go subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. I'm doing my own show tomorrow night, live recording, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you feel like it, come hang out. It's a good time. Just like hanging out with all of you who joined us here live tonight was a good time. Fightful.com. Go there. Fightfulwrestling.com as well. But also go to Fightful Select. Subscribe. Thank you all so much tonight, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next time. And we're out.